All right, America, welcome back. You're watching Liquid Lunch. I'm Rich Valdez, sitting in for John Tobacco. Some of you know me from WABC Radio, where I host This Is America. You can find me and comment at Rich Valdez with an S on social media. And we just wrapped up with Senator Marsha Blackburn. Really insightful stuff. What I loved about that, and her book looks terrific, where she focuses on what it's like to be a conservative woman and what some of the mantle is that a conservative woman has to carry in America, which I thought was brilliant. And I'm looking forward to reading it and maybe buying a couple of copies as gifts. And you can get that at Amazon.com, by the way. Make sure you check out her book. But I also want to glean, or what I did glean from what she talked about was get off my back and out of my pocket. Conservative principles that, echo in the voice of Ronald Reagan in my head, where I think to myself, this is truly what America's about. Not that America has to be conservative, but truly America and Americans, they want to be able to start a business. They want to be able to be free, right? It really is about liberty. It's about the liberty of saying, I want to shine shoes. I want to cut hair. I want to open a restaurant. I want to start a limousine company. Whatever it is that you want to do, you can do. You've got that freedom in America. And to me, that's clutch to being an American. That's how you make it here. You can make it to the top, no matter who you are. Because of the free market, because of the liberty that we have, because people aren't holding you back because you're whatever color you happen to be. I happen to be brown. Nobody's holding me back. But before I get into all of that stuff, I want to talk about what she mentioned about these freedoms that we have and the liberty that we have and how we have to protect those institutions and protect the next generation. And I couldn't agree with her more. I think that we culturally, ideologically, America has a four-front war going on right now. The biggest of which is probably happening inside of our government, every layer of government. We talked earlier with Professor Fernando Uribe about how in New York, an illegal alien can actually vote in a municipal election, even though they're not a citizen. It's this co-opting of each layer of government that presents an enormous problem for our republic to exist on a whole. And they start locally. And it's because too many people who believe in the principles of faith and family and freedom and the liberty that she spoke about with from Sir Edmund Burke and others that informed the founding and informed the founders, that gets usurped by those that don't believe in that. We have another front of this war, the media. When you have newsrooms across America that no longer believe in reporting the objective truth that's their typical job and leaving their opinion to the side, or at least labeling their opinion, as I do, and others, this is a problem because we no longer have objectivity and truth in our media. The third part of this war, the classroom, any classroom, whether it's a university classroom or a pre-K classroom, things are being co-opted. Teachers are no longer becoming teachers just to teach what was once elementary education or the ideas that go along with whatever subject they were teaching at a university level. But now it's to impart the wisdom that they've gotten from a political perspective. They want to share Howard Zinn. They want to share Saul Alinsky. They want to share these radical leftist teachings of Marx and others, so that that's the only side of the argument you get, so that you can swing into that column. And this is problematic. And of course, ultimately, there's always been, and sadly, they seem to be winning, an attack on the traditional nuclear family. So when you take these four fronts that American culture is at battle with, it becomes evident. You can see why so many people are in these professions, university teachers, school teachers, and this is not an indictment on every school teacher, but I would venture to say that public employees in general and university professors, school teachers, more specifically, are probably largely responsible for being the people that you see in these protests, in these riots, and in the acts of violence. And I guess that's a bold thing to say, but there's not a whole lot of people out there that have the ability to go and do these things unless they're independently wealthy. If you've got money, then you don't need to take time off from your work and do etc. But it's not easy to go spend hours on end at night into the wee hours of the morning breaking windows and doing all that if you have a job, if you have other responsibilities. Now, if schools are closed because of COVID-19, now we have an army of people. And just look at any election. If you have ever been involved in an election in New Jersey or maybe even some of the Midwestern states, but definitely on the East Coast, election day, you see busloads of teachers pull up, busloads. So I bring that up to say America's at a really interesting crossroads right now, where we have to decide, are we going to allow what was once considered a fringe element of the left wing of our political spectrum? They've encroached, and they're almost at the middle. How do we reject that? Well, I think the number one place we're going to reject it is going to be at the ballot box in November. But putting that aside, in our personal lives, we have to take certain actions, and we have to think, like Senator Blackburn said, how do we safeguard future generations? If people aren't willing to become teachers, if people aren't willing to work in the media, if people aren't willing to work in a university setting to hold on to their family and promote those family values, we're going to continue to see each and every one of these institutions that I just talked about continue to be downgraded and degraded. Why? Well, because this denigration of society and of these institutions, it will continually happen. So the only way to stop it is to really look at oneself. And the senator brought up Sir Edmund Burke. On my podcast, I oftentimes talk about Sir Edmund Burke's famous maxim. And it's, if you do nothing, evil will triumph, right? The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. And that's the admonition I leave you with. If you do nothing, you can expect all hell to break loose.